Oh, g'day everyone. Welcome back. Adelaide Conservatives, Season 2, Episode 2. Back with Luke Munro, as always. Luke, they say a week is a long time in politics. This is 2 weeks since our last podcast episode. Last time we were talking, we were debating whether Joe Biden would stay on or not as the Democrat nominee. Since then, we've had an assassination attempt on a former president. And we've also, of course, had Joe Biden pull out of the race, endorsing Kamala Harris. That looks to be the preferred option for the Democratic Party. Crazy 2 weeks.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's get back to the thing that started day after our last episode, which was the assassination attempt on President Trump. I mean, it's no real surprise, is it? You know, with the rhetoric and the carry-on from mainstream media, like, are they really surprised that someone would get fired up enough and try and have a shot at the president?
When you have the singular message of a campaign that your opponent is not bad for democracy, not bad in terms of policy or what he might do to minority groups, when you go to the extreme and say he is the end of democracy, that creates a fearsome hatred towards that candidate, and it creates a false fear that people have the urgency to do something. The Democrats are trying to go that they want the urgency to people and go and vote. That's their tactic.
Yeah.
But the extreme part of it is when you put that urgency and that absolute end of democracy line, some deranged people, and let's be real, 350 odd million people in the US.
Yeah, chances are you're going to upset someone, and you're going to, and there's, it's just ludicrous making claims about threat to democracy, but basically acting like the guy's the Antichrist. I mean, he was president for 4 years. None of these things happened, but the mainstream media has spent the last near on 4 years banging on about it, that they've got to protect their democracy. And look, how's the irony of them having to protect their democracy, and they've turned around and basically crowned Kamala Harris as their nominee. Like, so much for protecting democracy.
Well, we've been calling out for a long time Joe Biden's decline. Having said that, if you look at pure from a democratic process, he had, 14 million primary votes? Yeah. He was the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party. They absolutely forced him out. You mean, now they're going to try and paint it as this big, he's doing the right thing and he's above all this. And
what a statesman.
What a statesman he is, and he's putting America first. No, he was kicked out and he had to go kicking and screaming. And not until he was sick with COVID away and everyone could just get to him because he was isolated, but he actually made that final call.
He couldn't even get through that 10-minute spiel yesterday at the Oval Office. I mean, this is the travesty of the whole thing. They basically conned their own base that this guy was okay.
Yep.
This 14 million people voted for this guy based on what the mainstream media and the elites of the Democratic Party have been telling them. Mm-hmm. And now, look, if I was a Democrat or a delegate for the Democrats, I'd feel ripped off. Yep. I'd be like, they've basically lied for 3.5 years. We get a debate which everyone goes, oh crap, this doesn't look very good. What a surprise, when everyone else or any decent media has been talking about that for the last 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. And then we get that address from the Oval Office where the guy's like basically got a foot in the grave.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a disgrace.
But you can't help but put the personal side of it. I look at that Oval Office address, and at a personal level you go, that bloke is clearly struggling. Yes, he's in a job with high pressure and all these things. Someone close to him has to be saying, actually, maybe it's time to go now, Joe, because this is going to get worse. 6 months between now and when you will leave office. It's almost cruel what they're doing to him.
Oh, look, I think they're all in on it. Joe's the only one that doesn't really know what's going on. I reckon they're all in on it. They're all just so power hungry. Mm. And I mean, they've got a lot of other things coming up. I mean, it's probably having Dad as president for another term would help Hunter not go to jail. I mean, there's a lot of other layers to this.
Although this actually could be really good for Hunter, because he won't be the nominee for president. Kamala will. After November, he's got that little bit of a couple of months between November and January 6th or whenever it will be when he leaves office.
That's if he survives.
That's if he survives. But that's the time that he'll pardon his son. That's the time where it doesn't hurt him politically, it doesn't hurt the party politically, the result's over. In 4 years' time, no one will care, and they go, it was just a bloke looking after his son.
Yeah, But what do you think about what's happened so far? So Kamala Harris has been there for, well, basically self-appointed for nearly a week.
Well, you look at, we're talking about democracy, right? The last time the delegates of the Democratic Party got to put their opinions forward on Kamala was the 2020 presidential race when she was running against Joe Biden. And by the way, she was calling him a racist for the bus policy when she was a young girl.
Yeah. Now she loves Joe.
Now he's the best thing ever for the black community in America. So, but the last time was 2020. How many delegate votes did she get during that race?
She didn't make it to Iowa.
She did not make it to Iowa.
She didn't get a vote.
So she had, and similar to now, she had a lot of money raised really quickly.
Yeah.
But that did not translate to the actual votes coming through the members of the party, the delegates of the party. So that's the last time that they've had to have a say on her.
Yeah.
Joe Biden then selected her himself as the vice president because almost
it's a DEI pick.
It's a DEI. It's the opposite of what happened with Obama to him.
Yeah.
To be fair, he was a DEI pick on the flip side. Where Obama was going to bring the black community along with him. Biden at the time was seen to be the almost statesman figure that's been around for a while, the trusted pair of hands, the white guy, that mix that they needed to carry.
They had to go with Biden to secure Michigan, and to lock in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
and now they're going with Kamala. They're going to lose those states. I just sort of looking at it, and everyone's like all excited at the moment, or especially lefties are excited.
MSNBC will be
They're like,
Rachel Maddow, and
this is the best thing since sliced bread. But I look at the Electoral College, and the polling that we have, and I just don't see a path for her. Like she's not going to win those Rust Belt states. It's just not going to happen for her.
And the other problem she's got is Joe Biden wasn't doing terribly in the polls because he was diminishing his cognitive ability. That was contributing, there's no doubt. But the policies that the Democratic Party was pushing through were not resonating with the American people. You look at their national security, border security.
Yeah.
When you have a look at
look at Miller, the borders are like. I mean,
she owns these policies. She is.
So you see how the campaign's going to go now. You're going to have Trump and JD Vance basically smashing her about the border, and rightfully so. I mean, that was her baby, and she never even visited the place. But they're going to go hard about that. She's going to go hard about hard left things. She's going to go hard about abortion and things like that. Which I don't think it's going to do it for her.
And this is the thing I always find funny in America. The left would talk about abortion in terms of the extreme abortion bans and those sort of things.
Yeah.
But and it can be extreme, but it can be extreme on both sides.
Yeah, that's right.
So, if someone says that abortion should be banned, including for rape and incest, and if it's going to kill the mother, those sort of things, you can deem that as an extreme view. But on the flip side, you can also deem it extreme view if you've got someone saying abortion should not be, it should be fine for people in the 39th week, and there's nothing wrong with the baby, nothing wrong with the mother, they just don't want it. Like, it can be extreme on both sides. I think that's what gets lost.
Well, and that's why I think the best thing Trump's done leading into this campaign is to basically, one, get rid of Roe v. Wade, so it's not a federal issue, and hand it back to the states.
Yeah,
because in a state like California, they're going to want to be able to have an abortion at any point in time. The majority of people will there.
Yeah,
because that's just a kooky place. But then you look at somewhere like North Dakota, where they've got a total ban on abortion, which is not something that I 100% support, but they've got a total ban, but 90% of the population there is supportive of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that suits that state, whereas what California or New York will do will suit their state. That's how it should be. They're different folks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what happens when people put it into pro or against abortion. You don't look at the finer details. Like we saw what happened in South Australia when the abortion ban came in. So the more pro-abortion act came in a few years ago. Some of the Conservatives were trying to move motions that were really reasonable. We were just going to say, okay, if they're going to go down that path, they have to at least speak to a psychologist or a doctor or get some medical advice. That has to be part of the legislation.
Yeah.
So these people weren't going to make a decision that then they would be regretting for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Now, that's a pretty simple amendment to
No, yeah, no, but
move.
that wasn't going to fly.
That doesn't get carried. And to
No.
me, that's where the extreme comes in on the other side of this. You know,
Yeah.
people are just trying to get some responsibility in there, actually looking after people in their long-term mental health. If that is seen as, you know, against a woman's right to choose, well, you know, sometimes it's about being an informed decision, because these are big decisions that at the time they might seem like something you want. In 3, 4, 5 years, that might be something you regret for the rest of your life.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, those reasonable things put forward, when they get stifled out, that's where you start to get a bit worried. They're going extreme the other way.
Yeah.
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 But America is a funny place. I mean, you visited America a few times.
Yeah.
We've spoken about this before, where from afar here in Australia, we will be very much focused on a presidential race.
Yeah.
Over there, that they get a lot of focus on their governorship. You know, the states and the sovereignty of the states is a thing they're pretty passionate about over in America.
Well, that's right. And that's why back in 1973, when Roe v. Wade came into existence, it was like, it was really out there.
Yeah.
From states' point of view, because it was like seen as a massive amount of federal overreach, which they don't like there.
Yeah.
And look, whether you agree with Trump's stance on it or not, the fact of the matter is it's a union, and the states are supposed to govern those sorts of things. And that's all he's reverted it back to, whether you like it or not. It is how the founding fathers viewed the setup going. It's how they saw it work.
And that's why constitutions are really important, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't agree with the constitution when it's good for you and your issue, but then be against it when it's the opposite. If you think that the federal government shouldn't have overreach into state issues, you have to be consistent whether that issue is something you like or not. And then you have that fight about the policy with your state and with your governors and your elected representatives and throughout that state. Because, and the left do this really, really all the time. They have a dummy spit when something's against the Constitution.
Look at the Supreme Court.
Unless it suits them.
Like the Supreme Court, they're talking about...
I've done the same thing. I'm going to turn this heater off again. It's getting toasty. Yeah. Keep talking about the Supreme Court.
Yeah, no, so basically, the Supreme Court, their view is that they want to overhaul the Supreme Court. Joe Biden said it sort of said it in his 10 minutes of dribble the other day.
Sleepy Joe.
But Kamala Harris, she's always talked about overhauling the Supreme Court and how it works there. Well, they only want to overhaul it because it's not really working in their favour at the moment. Like, it swings and roundabouts. In 6 or 8 or 10 years' time, they're going to have, the pick of the Supreme Court justices. I mean, it's a system that stood the test of time.
Yeah, if you want to get a change to how the Supreme Court works, and your answer is to do a couple of things that they'll try and target, right? They'll say it's about, so how do you stack it? So you might talk about changing how long someone should be, so maybe an age limit or a tenure for someone on the Supreme Court. Well, you can guarantee that those ages and tenures will be structured very much that the Conservatives are the first ones to pop off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or another way they might want to go about it, and they've spoken about this publicly, is to increase the amount of Supreme Court justices they have. Now, doing either of those things is so against the separation between...
Well, that has happened before. Roosevelt did it in the 30s, and it didn't work out very well.
No.
He managed to remain president, but he lost a lot of skin, and he had to revert back to the system that they had. Yeah. Because it was seen that unpopularly across the country.
And they value in America the separation between the president, the Congress, the judiciary, how it all works as its entirety. And as soon as you see the Congress or a president trying to interfere in the courts and whatnot, Americans, they don't like it wherever they sit on the political spectrum. They get a bit funny about it.
Like I said earlier, it is just hilarious, the hypocrisy of the Democrats. They talk about maintaining democracy. They talk about rule of law, all these things, and they are doing the absolute opposite. Like things they're saying about the Supreme Court, well, that's democracy at work. Mm-hmm. The guy that got elected appointed the people that he thought best suited his and America's values. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they've basically crowned Kamala Harris as the nominee, but only 67% of Democrats want her as the nominee from a poll yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the elites basically pushing the wheelbarrow. They did it with Joe Biden. They pushed his wheelbarrow in 2020. Like, you got to remember, if you think back to the primaries in 2020.
But Bernie Sanders was the man that was leading the charge.
Yeah.
He had the grassroots swell behind him. He won a couple. Did he win early?
I can't remember which state he won.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been Vermont or somewhere like that. But he was but remember it was an anyone but Joe tickets what they were trying to do.
Yep.
You know, like they even brought Bloomberg out there, thinking that he was going to be the guy, and he crashed and burned in the debate, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
And they tried to do anyone but Joe, and then they were, oh fuck, we're stuck with Joe, so they've ended up going with him, knowing what we all know now. You know, and that's the hypocrisy of it. They go around talking about being transparent and being truthful and truth telling and all these other like catchphrases that you hear on MSNBC. Yeah. They're full of shit.
Oh, and you can't tell me that the debate was the first time that the left over in America realised that there was a cognitive decline with Joe Biden.
If you're watching MSNBC all the time, you would not have known.
You would not have known.
I generally think that.
But if you're a Democratic,
they're not all that stupid.
If you work in the White House, you're a Democratic insider. You're a congressman. You're a speaker. You have intimate meetings with the president.
You're the vice president.
You're the vice president.
Yeah.
You can clearly see it. This is not new. So when the Democratic machine comes out post debate and starts going, "Oh my God, this is worse than any of us thought," it's a rapid decline from Joe. No, it's not. The world can see it if you actually have a look at any independent media that's not going to be in Joe's.
I reckon this is in the works from about February. I reckon they looked at him like, I mean, he hasn't had a cabinet meeting for 18 months.
Yeah.
I mean, I reckon they looked at him and went, "Oh God, well, we've got the State of the Union coming up. Like, if he fluffs this State of the Union, this is where we're going to push him."
Yeah.
And somehow, whatever mixture of gear they gave him, he aced the State of the Union by his standards.
I was about to say, by his standards.
By his standards, he aced it.
That was always a risk because...
And then it's like... And then when you think about it, it might sound a bit conspiratorial, but it makes sense. They pushed him out there for the State of the Union. Well, he has to do it anyway, but, you know, I think the hope plan was that he'd fail there,
yes,
and they could get him out earlier,
yeah,
or just get him out of because they're still in the primary process then. And then why on earth would they have had a presidential debate when they did the first debate? It's never been done in history before that.
It's the earliest presidential debate in history.
So
he's the incumbent.
There's more to this. So, like, and I think Kamala Harris is all part of it. Like, it would have been we've got to expose this guy because we've got to find an excuse to get rid of him. After that debate, they probably expected he'd roll. I know we talked about it 2 weeks ago. I thought he was going to dig in and just stay there because he could have. He
could have, but the machine is too brutal. You can never underestimate the machine of the left.
Oh yeah, no.
They will eat their own, and they would have gone.
They would have come after him like they've come after Trump.
They would have
if he didn't roll over.
That interview that Nancy Pelosi gave after Joe Biden came out very strong, saying, "I am in this race. I'm not going anywhere."
Yeah,
and then you got Nancy Pelosi on MSNBC, I think it was, doing an interview.
Yeah,
saying, "I want Joe to decide."
Yeah, when Joe decides, when Joe's ready to decide,
he said about
I'll accept what he says. Yeah, it's kind of like
he said it 5 times. It was more like when Joe realizes.
It's the irony, isn't it? You got this 84-year-old woman telling an 81-year-old guy that he's lost it. Like the irony of it, you know. Like really, I mean, they all should be out of the way. But I mean, President Trump's too old too. But you know, he's at least his cognitive ability still seems to be there.
And that's the thing. No one looked at an age in terms of a number. You can look at Joe Biden and you can look at Trump. Doesn't matter if you agree or not with their policies or what they think politically. Yeah. One looks like he's got energy and he can. I mean, his rallies and speeches literally go on and on. Sometimes they go a bit too long, but his energy's up. You're going, that guy, like, he's performing, right?
Yeah.
Joe Biden, you're going, no, that's not okay.
Thing I sent you earlier.
So, what was the one you said earlier?
I'll find it for you. But yeah, no, you're right.
We'll give it a go.
See if I got it there. No, I might not have sent it to you. But anyway, yeah, it was just, sorry. It's just little funny thing. That's
the
an
one I've got here.
example of the bloke that's actually got a pulse still.
We've seen Joe Biden and the decline he's got, and how missing in action he goes during his speeches. You can see on his face all the time too. Like it's not so much what he says or the gaffes he has. You just look at his facial expressions, and everyone has had a person in their family that has gone through, sort of end of life, dementia, Parkinson's, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Or just, when they get into their 90s, they get quite old and it's not quite there anymore, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's had that in their family. And you see it. That look is the thing I think that has it more than anything. And you see him lost.
Yeah. The 5 mile stare.
What they're going to replace it with is Kamala Harris. What's her little speech that she always gives of,
oh, God. Which one?
Hand movements. You got to do this.
Yeah.
And then you got to do this. What does she say about?
I can't. There's a few of them, but if it's to be, it's going to be, and it's going to be when it's going to be.
No, I think I remember that one. That's actually quite unburdened. Unburdened with that one. We've got to play that one.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just lots of little gems there, where she sort of, for someone who was a prosecutor, I just find it bizarre. She seems to go around in circles.
See if you can get it. See if you can work out the quote.
Yeah.
Try and deliver it, Luke. See if you can do it. Oh, where is it? Unburdened by what has been.
Unburdened by what has been, yeah.
This is going to be really riveting.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
Kamala Harris? Yeah, we got to. Because, I know some people want her to be president, and other people want her to just go away. Me, I'd just be happy for her to get some new material. Here's the vice president this week at the Reading Area Community College.
The point about progress is to have the ability to have a vision and a belief and some faith in what can be, unburdened by what has been.
Yeah, that's what. There you go. Yeah. What can be
by what has been. Hey, feels
unburdened by what has been.
Like I've heard that before.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be.
What does that even mean?
Unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
Oh, holy crap.
All right, enough. I've got 5 more minutes of that stuff.
But
the problem is,
courtesy of Sky News there.
She keeps on saying it, right?
Yeah.
What can be unburdened by what has been. So someone's told her, this is great. She's reading a room of lefties.
It doesn't really make any sense.
What does what can be unburdened by what has been actually mean? In what context are you using it? And why do you keep on repeating it? So in America, that has become subject to a whole bunch of memes and criticism and Facebook posts having a crack at her.
Maybe she's talking about rolling a sitting president. It's unburdened.
One of the first campaign things she brought out in this new time was something like unburdened. She sort of started embracing it. Like, that's my catchphrase. This is who I am. This is what I'm known for. And you go, this is no one. People are making fun of you. That's why you're known for it. They're literally laughing at you, cackling.
I'll tell you what, and as people, anyone who follows this podcast, they know that I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to polling. But where is that today? There's real clear politics. So basically, she's had her honeymoon. She's in the middle of her honeymoon at the moment, and the real clear averages still have Trump up by 2 points, 48% to 46%. So that's
a nationwide.
That's nationwide polling. So, she's closed the gap by 1 point. That's why we touched on in the last talk we had about it. I think that they're so polarized there.
Yes,
that the margin, if there was going to be any big jump, we would have seen it. I just don't think it's going to be there, and I don't know how she bridges that gap. And with this polling too, like Real Clear polling or 538 polling, which is another one that tracks all the different polls, the margin's the same. Like they're tracking dozens of polls. We get a news poll once a month here, and we get excited. They get something equivalent of a news poll every day there. Sometimes 3 or 4 of them in a day. So when I'm watching that and looking at the trends, all these polls are always 2 to 3% in favour of the Democrats. Yeah, and that's not because they do it on purpose. It's just the sort of people that respond and the people that they can get hold of to respond. That's why they say there's a 3% margin of error. That 3% margin of error isn't for Republicans. Mm-hmm. It's there. Like the last election, they had Biden winning by, I think they had him winning by like 5 points or something. He ended up winning by 2.2 or something like that. So it's all like, if she's still 2 points behind in the middle of her honeymoon, I think she's toast.
Yeah, and this is a huge honeymoon period.
Yeah. Look, she's going to have a Democratic convention. She might get a little bump from that too. Yeah, but I mean, look, Trump got a bump. Trump was only 1 point ahead on those polling averages before the assassination attempt. Mm-hmm. Like
is it a polling average or is that a nationwide poll?
Just nationwide polling average. Yeah. So that's not we're not talking electoral college, mm-hmm. but like I said in the last podcast we did, those numbers I don't think are going to move too much. Like something catastrophic has to happen mm-hmm. for someone to break away or someone to close the gap. And I think they've picked the absolute wrong candidate to try and do that. Like they needed a circuit breaker. She's not a circuit breaker. She's just basically Joe Biden, better looking, better tan, and in a dress.
And here's the thing though, because when you look at the nationwide polling, similar in a way to here in Australia, when you have a nationwide poll, you need to be a little bit more direct and have a look at it by seat, look at the swing seats. Over there, you need to look at the swing states. Yeah. You can go further ahead in a nationwide poll because California has given you a bump further left candidate and they're all getting excited.
And if you really want to break it down,
behind in the swing states.
If you really want to break it down, that's where she's picked up. She's picked up in places like New York. She's picked up a little bit in Georgia. Yep. But there's like a high African American population there. Like 30% of the population in Georgia is African American. So
picked up in Virginia?
Yeah, she's ahead in Virginia now. So but Virginia should have never been in play. But she's only 2 points ahead. So margin of error in Virginia. But I don't expect. I never would have expected Trump to win Virginia, except for what's been happening with Biden of late. So Virginia should have never been in play. But like she'll hold Virginia for him. The only smoky that she's got, I believe, is Georgia.
Yes.
But if she wins, she's going to hold Virginia. If she wins Georgia, like North Carolina, like there was a poll, like Cooper, who's the governor, who might be the VP pick of North Carolina. Yep. There was a poll yesterday, him head-to-head with Trump president in North Carolina, and Trump was still beating him, and he's a popular governor. So I think North Carolina's out. Yep. But I think, Georgia might be in play because they will play to that race-baiting crap of first woman of colour. Well, she's not even African American, but first woman of colour. They'll play to that, and that might give them a chance in somewhere like Georgia. But the other states, like that, they'll hold Minnesota now. They'll hold New Mexico. They'll probably hold New Hampshire. But these states that they never expected to lose a month ago. Yeah. So all they're doing is they're basically the little jump in the polls, and from what I've been monitoring there in the individual states, the little jump, all it's done is it's basically saved the furniture bit.
That's exactly what this is about. The changeover from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris at this late stage is all about saving the furniture. And the best analogy that I've heard on this is it's like when you're in a speeding car going towards the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
You have to jump out of that car. Now, that decision to jump out of that car means you're going to take an absolute hit.
Yeah.
But you're not going to go over that cliff.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you're going to, oh, God, no one likes Kamala. Our party doesn't like Kamala. But it's better than having a blubbering idiot.
Oh, don't get me wrong. They'll all rally around her, and she'll get 80 to 90% approval amongst Democrats after the convention. All that sort of stuff. Like she'll get.
Well, they have to.
She'll get to near on Trump approval numbers within her own party. That's going to happen.
Yep.
But those folks that don't approve of her right now weren't going out to vote for Trump. They were still going to vote for her begrudgingly. You know, so they'd still vote. And as far as they talk about voter enthusiasm, people under 45, Kamala Harris is ahead of Trump now. Trump was ahead for the last couple of months, but Trump would have never expected to win that demographic anyway. Like, so I was looking at paths and pathways for how the Democrats think they're going to win by doing this, and I honestly think the only way they think they're going to win by doing this is basically scorched earth on Donald Trump's personality. That's all they're going to be doing. And the threat to democracy, all that sort of bullshit.
The problem they've got with that is, and we've said this 2 weeks ago, that Trump was seeing in this campaign is a hell of a lot more disciplined.
Yeah, he is.
He's not making these big comments. He's not making gaffes. He's giving the opposition more time to make a fool of themselves. He's listening to advice. They need him to stuff up. They're at a point now where they need a Trump stuff up, and he's not giving it to them, and that's going to frustrate them.
And that's what I'm saying. Like that, they need something catastrophic to happen. Now, you know, Trump taking a bullet for democracy. I love that line.
Yeah,
that's a real needle in the eye to them. Him saying that that's on purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
but
you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the old Reagan. In the debates, Reagan said, when they tried to turn his microphone, "Excuse me, I'm paying for this microphone."
Yeah.
It was almost the same as, well, you're against democracy. I took a bullet for democracy.
Yeah.
That same cut through of a couple of lines words, it's really made a big difference to,
Yeah. And I just look, hey, look, the guy just got shot. I mean, that has locked in his base. And that has locked in his base at an enthusiastic level that I think Kamala Harris is going to struggle to match.
Well, that's one thing we haven't spoken about too much, right?
Yeah.
You're ex-military, ex-army.
Yeah.
What happened at the Trump event? Now, any layman out there that looks at any, and this is a terrible way of looking at Secret Service, if you watched any Hollywood movie that has a Secret Service in it, you think these big, tough blokes surround the president, put their own life at risk. But you know the basics of, well, get the high ground. If there's a building, a roof, they have that secured. How on earth has a roof 150 yards or where it may be away?
Yeah.
A 20-year-old nobody, a loser, a bloke with no friends can climb up a ladder after being seen with the Secret Service an hour before with a rangefinder, will get his way onto the roof and have a direct shot at the former president and a front runner for the election. How does that even happen?
Well, yeah, I don't understand it. I don't look. Like Trump said, maybe it's just for the grace of God that he turned his head and that bullet missed. Because I've got to tell you, I was never a crack shot, but 150 yards away with an Armalite, which is the similar weapon to an AR-15, 150 yards away, that's point blank.
That's point blank. And
you can't miss.
You know more about this than I do, but so he's looking in it through a scope. So I'm guessing that's when you're looking through a scope, right? And you're looking at a target.
Yeah.
Do you adjust to scope on range? Was that what the rangefinder would be for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That is 150 yards.
So that would have been set.
I'll set this to 150.
That would have been notched in. That would have been notched in before he got on the roof. That's why he would have the rangefinder.
Yeah.
He'd have notched it in, had it ready to go before he's got on the roof. But look, 150 yards with a weapon like that is pretty well point blank, even without a scope.
And that's what I'm wondering. So take someone like me. I've never shot a weapon.
Right.
If you were to have a day training with me,
yeah,
I might get 5 out of 10, 8 out of 10 of those shots, mate? Or would you be pretty confident if I was in a good scenario? You'd be pretty confident I could make that shot after a day's training.
Oh, look, it's been a long time since I did it, so I'm probably not the best person to train you. but look, it'd be you'd hit every time. Now, you might not hit him in the head, but I mean, look, he's lucky that the kid went for the sensational shot, because we were always trained to go for the largest mass. If it was me, I'd have been aiming at the torso, and you could not miss. And if you hit him in the torso, he's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't look as sexy on TV or whatever you're trying to do, but that's
people
what, that's what
I heard. A few people having a go at this bloke's shot. His shot was actually dead on.
it was. He just
So when he would have had it in his sights, that's exactly where
it was a
the
fluke.
center of the skull would have been. It's just that turn of a head. I'm gonna look over at my graph over here.
It was
right at the right time, and it goes through my ear instead of the center of my head.
It was an absolute fluke. But what's the other thing that's a fluke?
But what it goes back to
they reckon he got 8 shots off. What the other thing that's some sort of miracle as well is yes one poor bloke got killed and 2 other people got injured. It's amazing. It's a miracle that no people were wounded by that's basically sporadic fire.
So 8 shots, right? Would that have been I hold the trigger down, it will keep shooting?
No, not automatic. No, they're semi-automatic.
So semi-automatic, is that it?
No. So single shot. Single shot, it just would have been.
How fast I can get my finger
squeeze.
to
It's pretty. It doesn't take very long to get 8 shots off.
Yeah.
It kind of amazes me that the Secret Service took as long as they did to get their 1 shot off. But yeah. I mean they clearly like I know there's a lot of confusion and stuff like that, but they clearly had him in the sights, and it took them a second or 2 to engage, which I don't really understand.
Yeah. And is there their policies, their doctrine that they don't shoot unless someone shoots first?
No. That's movie stuff.
So my thing is if someone's got someone in the scope at a presidential rally,
what it would have been,
they're looking at him clearly beforehand. They're going, "Who's this bloke on the roof? What's he like?" They would have had a pretty good view of what he had.
Because I was never trained to do that sort of thing. I mean, I was infantry rifleman, so I was never really trained to, do that sort of, counter-terrorism type stuff or any of that. I was never special forces or anything like that. But I would have thought, I think they would have had him in the scope the whole time, and there would have been confusion. This is just my guess, my hypothetical. There's probably confusion as to whether he was local law enforcement or not. That's what I think would have been the issue for him. They'd have gone. Like, imagine how that's the only thing I can think of to justify it from the counter sniper team is that guy must have been thinking, like, just imagine how bad it'd be if he blew a local sheriff deputy's head off that was sitting on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that wouldn't. That sort of stuff would have been going on.
That's the biggest thing.
The radio communication.
Yeah,
the local police didn't have radio communication with the Secret Service. So that counter sniper's doing. He is just acting purely in that split second on his own. There would have been no one telling him to shoot. He'd have picked it up. He'd have been telling his Secret Service, which astounds me too, that they even let Trump get on stage. But they would have known that there was someone suspicious lurking around. It just, I mean, you can go all conspiratorial if you like, but it seems a bit. It just doesn't. It stinks.
Yeah, you look at it. You go. It's either you got to subscribe to a conspiracy or incompetence, and from experience, always back incompetence because 99% of the time, incompetence is the one that's going to make it. And I think this you touched on it here is the communication between the Secret Service and the local police.
Yeah.
Now, from what I can see is there's 3 layers. There's the inner zone, which is completely locked down by the Secret Service, and they have complete control over. There's the outer perimeter, which is where they're doing their scanning and people are checking in or going through security and going through metal detectors, right?
But those people at the outer perimeter, all those people that you saw the videos where they were filming this kid on the roof, they didn't go through any security.
And this is the thing, so no security there.
Those guys could have been armed to the teeth.
Yep.
I'm sure some of them were armed.
And the Secret Service,
country, Pennsylvania,
but they're they're only funded to a certain extent, right? So that they have, I think it's like 30 something people that they
30 details that they
detail. So they'll protect the president, the vice president, the president's family, and children up to 16.
I mean,
past president, but also
Jimmy Carter's still got a security detail. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, God, that'd be boring.
But
wouldn't it?
NATO was in town too.
Yeah,
in America, so foreign leaders that come. So there is a resourcing strain.
yeah. But most foreign leaders, though, to be fair, they have their own security detail.
They do, but they're always accompanied. This is what I'm.
Oh, okay, all right.
So there's a strain of resources. So they have to rely on local policing. So they lock down the stuff that's closest to the president, right?
Yeah.
Then they go to local police. That's where maybe not the incompetent. They're not as well rehearsed and trained in these things. But where's the communication between the two? Because they knew someone was on the roof.
Well, they knew someone was walking around the rangefinder. Not why are you walking around like and he flew a drone over the event an hour before
Before the event, yeah.
But like, no one should be able to put a drone in the air where a president's going to be or anyone, a high valued target. Why would you let them put a drone in the air?
That's the other thing I was thinking. Right, people can attach whatever they want to drones now. They're pretty strong things. When you look at how much there was this confusion of, is it one of us? Who's this guy on the roof? If a drone went up, it was some sort of explosive attached to it, right?
Yeah.
A drone could get to the stage pretty quickly. Well, what's the confusion? Where's their ability to shoot that down?
It's winging a prayer with a drone to hit a target, unless it's a military drone.
Yeah, but then you go, when you see some type of incompetence or a failure in security, you question everything else. Particularly when, as I said before, the main thing is everyone knows you take the high ground. If there's a rooftop, you secure that. So to me, it's not the fact that they had a sniper looking at it or those sort of things. To me, the biggest thing is, why was no one on that roof? Or at least, there was a ladder.
He brought. Oh well, we don't know for sure, but it sounds like he brought the ladder with him.
He brought the ladder with him. Like, how?
Rode in on his bike with the ladder under his arm.
Yeah,
like it's just. Yeah, it doesn't make.
It's a huge.
Doesn't.
And like, the best conspiracy theories stem from incompetence, because you people that again, you watch movies and they have this perception of the Secret Service.
One day, we will find out. But one day, I almost guarantee, like these counter sniper guys, they're mostly ex-Army Rangers or ex-Special Forces guys. These guys are patriots, and they'll always try and do the right thing. I think we'll find in time, when they can speak, they will say that they would. I guarantee you, they would have highlighted that as a vulnerable point.
Mm-hmm.
A day before the rally, or days before, they would have identified it as a vulnerability.
Yes,
and no one did anything about it.
Yeah, or even when they could see it, you might be reluctant to take a shot, but there should be a way of getting a message to the president on stage that he needs to either duck, or the Secret Service need to swim around him, get off stage, because that to me is the biggest thing. Like, you understand someone going, that decision of, oh my God, imagine if I shoot a local cop on the roof, that's going to look bad. Hey, there's a suspicious guy on the road. We need to get the president down. There's that railing is the security part of him. So that's why they always say for him to duck, because that railing's got the American flag on it, but it's a steel railing that was going to protect him. He's out of sight.
Yeah, it's bulletproof.
It's bulletproof.
Yeah, that's the idea. You basically you roll to the ground and roll under that. Yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, look, from what I've heard, yeah, it sounds like the counter sniper, like he had a difficult angle, so it was clear line of sight, but the angle that the kid came up on, like literally all he could see was the top of the kid's head. And so it sounds like he's seen the top of the kid's head. When he's popped up, it sounds like he's put a bullet straight through his head. But he only had half a watermelon to aim at, basically.
Yeah,
whereas So, but still, it's no excuse. So
how was the one that got me was the director of the Secret Service when she made the comment of that they didn't put someone on the roof because it was sloped. The danger of a slope. what was it, like a 5-degree pitch on that roof?
Oh, look, well, she's gone now anyway. I mean, I can't believe she survived a day after that. That was just a joke.
That grilling in the Capitol building, what was it, one of the committees?
Yeah.
They pulled her in, they subpoenaed her in, and Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, it was bipartisan. It was bipartisan.
The Democrats were tearing into something.
Well, that's the only reason she left.
Yeah.
Like,
Why she lost the Democrats?
Joe Biden, he still hasn't. Joe Biden's never sacked anyone. So it took for his own party to basically go to town on this woman for her to go, they're not going to back me in. Maybe I'm screwed.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The other thing that really annoys me, right, is some people say tongue-in-cheek and almost like a joke, like, oh, they missed him, bugger, right? Some people say it seriously.
Yeah.
And again, you go back to our previous discussion, Donald Trump is bad. He's the end of democracy. I wish they had have got him.
Oh, some people.
Hang on a minute.
Enough people out there believe it.
But this is the thing. When you actually look at the rationale behind it, so you think the answer to what you believe is the end of democracy is to assassinate a bloke
to stop democracy from happening.
Before the American people can choose if they want him or not. And surely if the American people want him, that is democracy in itself.
But Simon, you don't understand. That's how the elite left work.
Mm-hmm.
It's democracy for me and none for thee, Like it's all about
democracy is great when you win.
Yeah, that's right. When they're winning, they want it all. They want all the democracy in the world. They want to have a big cakewalk, down in the middle of the street about democracy. But when the shoe's on the other foot, it's not democracy anymore. It must have been stolen. It must have been, there must be something wrong with it. There must be something wrong with half the population. There must be something wrong with the rhetoric or the all this other crap that you hear from the left.
We saw it in Australia
in power.
The prime example for that in Australia was The Voice.
Yeah.
It was Australia will do the right thing. We're better than this. We're the right people. And, we're not racist. And no, we're not. Unless you vote no, then we are racist. And we're not going to do that. Well, everyone votes no. And here we go.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
we're just a bunch of racists.
One thing I was thinking about today, right? We spoke about the federal voice.
Yep.
We spoke about the state voice.
Yeah, which is still barreling ahead with.
Which went in very quietly. We saw that less than 10% of people that were eligible to vote come out and vote, which tells me over 90% of Aboriginal people in South Australia were opposed to this because they didn't want to be involved in the process at all.
The Indigenous people I know didn't. They told me they didn't vote. Like I know a few guys. I'm not going to name them.
Yep.
But they said they didn't vote because they felt the process was rigged. And I'm going, well, okay, whether it was or wasn't, they obviously don't have confidence in the process. Hence, you only get 10% voter turnout.
Yeah. So to me, the Aboriginal people I spoke to, very similar. So they might have gone, the process is rigged, and that might come from a distrust in the Western system of government.
Oh yeah. A lot of them would have seen it as this is a white man way of doing things, sort of thing.
You still have a lot of conservative-minded Aboriginals because, shock horror, Aboriginals, like every other race, have their own free thought and free will.
No, they don't.
Just like you or I, they don't have to vote on block.
They're a voting bloc, just like African Americans. Are voting bloc. Well, that's not working out so well for over there in America at the moment.
Exactly right. So you have these Aboriginal people that are proud conservatives, and they don't subscribe to those that virtue signaling nonsense.
Yeah.
And then you have others that think it doesn't go far enough, and so there's 3 or 4 different reasons why they voted or chose not to participate.
Yeah.
The ones that chose to participate all fall under the one umbrella of they are activists.
Yeah.
A lot of them have jobs within the state government already. So the irony of having a voice is strange because they already have a voice. They have some pretty high-paying state government jobs where they have influence within the bureaucracy of government.
Yeah. Relatives
within state or local government or whatever it may be, federal government.
Yeah.
So they have influence already. They have a voice. They have influence. They have a bigger voice than the average person on the street already. They're the ones who are getting involved in this process. The people who aren't are the people on country, the people who are disadvantaged, the people whose voices may need to be heard more, but the the elite of the left, the elite of the Aboriginal community that do get themselves involved, these activist type, their voice that is already large gets larger.
Just gets amplified. Yeah, yeah.
And when you listen to that group more than the others, this group's already amplified.
Yeah.
What it means is this voice, the real voice of the Aboriginal community, gets suppressed because this can't be louder without this one getting quieter.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
In no situation, and probably no surprise that we think like this, is more government, more bureaucracy, a better solution to better outcomes for the people.
Yeah.
Right? So the interesting part for me, though, is the state voice was passed on a Sunday. The first sitting Sunday, this special thing that's never happened in South Australia before, right?
Yeah. No, let's just ram it through.
They tried to make a big spectacle of this, and they had everyone out there in the parliamentary steps. There wasn't that many people that actually turned up. They had some pretty good, they always take a photo of the best part of the crowd as they do.
Yeah.
Then they've gone on, they've done
Ranger crowd.
They've had the first elections. As we said, less than 10% of the people have actually participated in this election.
Yeah.
Some people were elected on as few as 6 votes.
Yeah.
Some candidates didn't receive a single vote. Imagine that. So you're going to go to this.
I didn't see that. So they're going to vote for themselves.
I think there was two. There was 2 candidates. There was 2 candidates that went to the extent of nominating for the process, which there's a lot of paperwork to do, to be fair. But then they couldn't even be motivated enough to go and vote for themselves.
Might be something better on that day.
It actually makes me wonder, did they even nominate themselves? Who was nominating for them? If you don't nominate yourself and not vote for yourself, it's a strange situation.
Yeah, no, that's weird. It's very weird.
But post that, right, they've now had their elections. They've got this. We've not heard a single thing they've done. The government knows it's not popular. They know that 64% of the state voted against the federal voice.
Yeah.
They know that over 90% of the Aboriginal community didn't involve themselves within this process. So it's deeply unpopular.
Yeah, they checked out.
Deeply, deeply unpopular between, all South Australians plus the target group they're trying to hit with this.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, you could say with less than 10%, there's 90% of Aboriginal people that didn't involve. It's more unpopular with the Aboriginal community than the standard South Australians. Now,
the other thing
why aren't they talking about it?
Well, the other thing that they didn't, like folks I know that are Indigenous, a lot of them, they thought this whole thing was rigged and by the people that were nominated. And I mean, they could have nominated themselves, I guess, but they felt like the decisions were already made beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And they also, it was only how they announced it and advertised it to the Indigenous communities was very lacking. A lot of people, like one of the blokes that I know, he said half his family didn't even know it was on. Yeah, and that's on purpose.
Yeah,
it's already predetermined who they wanted to be on that voice.
It's remarkable.
Yeah,
it's remarkable. And again, is that democratic?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Like we said, like the left of politics loves democracy when it's all working for them.
And what they don't highlight, right? So, for a conservative's perspective, they like to say, they're against the voice, therefore they're against the Aboriginal community.
Yeah,
I think in conservatives, and me and you sit to the right of, even within the Liberal Party, we sit to the right of how things work, right?
Oh, really?
No surprises there.
Yeah.
But if someone was doing something that was disadvantaging deliberately to a racist extent, an Aboriginal person, I think the Conservatives would be the first people to step their hand up very clearly and strongly and say, what are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you go back beyond the 60s or further back, and we've spoken a bit about America, if we saw someone saying that, a black person couldn't ride in a bus, like, we'd be the first to go out there and absolutely tear shreds of whoever's doing that disgusting behaviour, right? What we want is everyone to be treated equally.
Well, what you got now?
Treat people the same.
You got to look at most key things over time, whether it be here or anywhere else in the world. Key initiatives that have come in, like whether it be to abolish slavery, whether it be to give Aboriginal people the vote here, even gay marriage or legalising being homosexual. And you look at all those things, in most of the West, and particularly in Australia, were all initiated by the right of the right of politics. So, just the irony of it. But see, the left will champion all those folks now, like all those minorities and things like that. But they only champion them if they sing their chorus. You know, they want them. They think there's this one block of people, and they have control over them. They're not treating them as an individual.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the key difference. Conservatives will look at the needs of the individual, whereas most people on the left, and it's getting worse, are starting to more look at things as a collective, which is basically socialism or communism.
And the problem with that, right? So if you're part of a minority group or any group, and you hatch your trailer to a left political organisation like Labor, for example.
Yeah.
So whether it's Indigenous people, gay communities, if they say, well, that's Labor, that's what we always vote for.
Yeah.
Your policies are only going to benefit you half the time if you're lucky when that government is in.
Yeah.
Or if you go into it and say, we're going to campaign for certain issues, and I don't care if it's a Liberal or a Labor, whoever delivers it, we'll give credit to.
Yeah.
On certain issues, you'll find yourself having better outcomes all the time.
Yeah. That's
But
it.
if you go, oh, that's our team, it becomes this sporting club mentality of this is who we are.
And that's exactly what's happening.
It does. It actually sets you back 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to listen or work productively with people who will get themselves into power that you fundamentally disagree with, and you just saying, I'm not going to work with you. If you put your hands up and say, I'm not going to work with them,
Yeah.
then nothing will ever get done for your.
But, I mean that works sometimes because you can alienate a whole bunch of people that you're not really that interested in, and that were never probably going to really support you in the first place, and they don't care about doing that. But democracy swings and roundabouts.
Yep.
At some point, you're going to need those folks that you've basically, like in back to America, that you've called deplorables. You're going to need those people to come back and maybe vote for you to get rid of the Antichrist, which is what they think Trump is. So
they don't need them. They've got a bullet.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. He missed.
It is ludicrous what's happening over in America at the moment. More locally, we think about here in Australia. As you said, our polling gets done a lot more infrequently.
Yep.
So when we have these monthly news polls, we pay attention to them really strong.
Yep.
Labor in a bit of trouble.
Yeah. Look, again, I'm the poll nerd here. They are in trouble, but they're in trouble to a point where if an election was held tomorrow, they'd have to form a minority government.
Yeah.
Which I don't know what's worse, losing or having to do a minority government with the Teals and the Greens.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're that desperate to hang on to power, Albo, he will do that, but he'll get absolutely massacred in 3 years' time.
Well,
so that's the predicament with the polls now. That's his best option. His best option is to make minority government. He's not going to win a majority. He's not going to get close.
And this is it. So a minority government, which is looking like the most likely outcome.
Yeah.
It's bad for Australia. It's bad for Labor backbenchers.
Yeah.
They're the ones in the subsequent election will be up to lose their...
Oh, yes. Yeah, there'll be a lot of people in trouble. Yeah.
It's good for the Prime Minister because he gets to keep power, and senior ministers, they get to keep their jobs.
Yeah, that's right. It's good for the elites.
So it's good for the elites and the extreme left being the Greens.
Yep.
And so if you look at that for an outcome, the leadership and the extreme left get a good result. Australia and Labor backbenchers suffer.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we talked about it in the last podcast, but that scenario is not going to deliver nuclear energy for us. The thing with the nuclear energy, I look at it and go, look, I think Dutton's dead right with pushing for the nuclear energy. But if it's all about free markets and letting the market decide and all this sort of crap that you hear from Albo and Bowen, get rid of the moratorium.
Yep.
Like, what are you afraid of? Like, even if Dutton doesn't get up and his nuclear push doesn't happen, scrap the moratorium. Let that market decide. If the market could decide, I guarantee you, It's not going to be all solar panels and wind turbines. There'll be a mixture.
When Chris Bowen says, well, I've not had anyone in industry come to me with a serious proposal about nuclear, then of course they haven't. They're not allowed to. Like they're not going to put their money and investment in something that's prohibited within the country.
Yeah.
And you're right. I would love to see a private member's bill brought to the Senate or the House of Assembly, right?
Yep.
Where they call on the lifting of the moratorium.
Alex Antic, let's get rid of the moratorium.
Because then Labor will be in with a real decision.
Or Matt Canavan, let's get rid of the moratorium.
If we vote against it, we're playing our hands in terms of saying that, we're trying to be reasonable with this discussion, say it's the economic discussion, right?
Yeah.
But if you're against that motion,
scrap if they scrap the moratorium, the market may decide they don't want nuclear. And if that's the case, great.
That's fine.
Like we're not a communist country where the state's going to come out and build all this infrastructure. Like Peter Dutton's not proposing that he builds the infrastructure.
Yep.
Someone else will be building it. He might give them a hand up to get going, like every renewable project in the country has. But it's going to be the private sector ultimately that make it work. And if the private sector doesn't think that it's doable or economic, they won't do it. What a surprise.
And here's the thing. So in the country now, in Australia today, we have the Greens that are more focused on ideology and socialist agendas than they are the environment. They were founded on the environment.
They're not the Greens anymore.
They're not the Greens.
They are the Communist Party.
They certainly are. But then if you actually look at the policies, when you look at the grid, everyone knows that doesn't matter how much solar or wind you put into the grid, you're going to have a baseload power.
Yeah.
And there's three ways you can maybe four ways you can try and get that power.
Yeah.
You can go gas, which, we're pretty much floating on gas in this country, but we can't use that.
Yeah, no, we want to export it to Japan so that they can have cheap energy, but yeah.
Yep. You can go coal, or we can't go that, but we want to export that to China, who are building
Indonesia, India. We export it.
You can go nuclear, which is Peter Dutton's proposal.
Yeah.
We're
sitting on more uranium than anywhere else on the planet.
Yeah. Or you have to go storage of power, which is batteries, which is ridiculously expensive, and that's stuff. Or you go for a hydro version, and the only place that we can do that is the Snowy Mountains, and that's proven to be very expensive and problematic. In theory, fantastic.
Look, it works. It works in Tasmania, but you're trying to support a population of 400,000 or 500,000 people, and they've got very mountainous, lots of spots where hydro's set up there, and it works really well. But the landscape of Australia, your Snowy Mountains, that probably works really well for a very small little pocket of the country.
Yeah,
but it's not practical to power the whole grid.
Then you've got the two policies for the two major parties, where Albanese, his policy will certainly keep coal and gas on board for longer because they're going to need it. They won't say it.
Oh no, that's right.
But you're seeing it in the premise. So in New South Wales, they're saying, "Oh, we'll keep this coal power station open longer because they have to, right?"
Yeah.
So, or you go for zero emissions green nuclear energy as your baseload.
That's right.
When you actually look at it and you take ideology out of it, the Liberal Party's policies have become more environmentally sustainable.
Yeah, they actually are.
Now, that's going to be one of the points where I think the younger Australians, the more reasonable younger Australians, wherever they may be, that's where they were attached to the nuclear part of it. So when you have the Greens that have disassociated themselves from the environment and now going to worry about Palestine, when you have Labor who are going to go, oh, we can't even talk about nuclear, but we're going to go all in on renewables and fund it, and we're going to put power lines everywhere. And then you've got the Liberal Party saying, well, how about, we're not against solar, we're not against wind, but we need to just top it up with a bit of clean, green, zero emissions nuclear energy.
You can't do it with just renewables. Nowhere else on the planet does it with just renewables. I mean, you've got to have baseload power. Like small little minnow countries in Europe, they go, oh, we're all renewables. Well, when the wind's not blowing and the solar's not working, the sun's not out, they are drawing power from France or somewhere that's got nuclear reactors. Or even if you're in Germany, the eastern part of Germany, you're drawing power from Poland where it's cold. So none of these places that, quote their green, look how green we are and how wonderful we're going. When the chips are down, they're pulling their power off one of their neighbours that's got sensible energy policy.
Well, the term that's coming out now, and I think it's going to be used more and more, is a wind drought. Now, we're all familiar with a drought in terms of, particularly here in South Australia, we're very familiar with the word drought means.
Yeah.
Because water is a key resource that we need to actually have a productive society and live, the way we do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The wind drought is something that's coming because when your grid is too secure on wind turbines, that's the number one thing that's putting energy into your market.
Yeah.
There is sometimes a period of time where it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 12 days where it just goes still. And sometimes, believe it or not, that happens during winter.
Yeah,
You can have cloud cover on a very still day. The clouds sit around because it's still. They sort of go hand in hand, right? Which means that your solar's not working.
Yeah.
And your wind turbines aren't turning.
Well, one thing I've got...
If it's 1 day, that's fine. If it's 2 days or 3 days, that's where it starts to go.
This is a plug, right? It's for Amber Solar or Amber Energy. So probably can't really see that, but basically that's who I've gone to for my electricity supplier. And what it does is, like, they're full greenies. Don't get me wrong, but what it does is it tells you what the live wholesale energy price is, and you can see it. And when, like, you're right, when it's a sunny day or the wind's blowing, I'm paying 2 to 5 cents a kilowatt. It's really, really cheap energy. But when we had that storm last week, it spiked because I had to turn the wind turbines off because the wind was too heavy. Like, if it's too windy, they have to turn the turbines off. It was night time, and it spiked to $8 a kilowatt. Now, that would never happen in Melbourne or Sydney because they've got their baseload power they can draw from. We didn't have. It took an hour for us to start drawing power at a cheaper rate out of Victoria. So they're the things that can happen when you're too reliant on volt and wind turbines.
I was trying to get...
What are you doing?
It didn't work. My YouTube's not great. I was trying to get a Kamala Harris laughing at you, but it didn't.
Oh, nice.
Oh, you like this one. You like this one. Hang on. How do I get back to it here? This will set you off.
Not today. A woman sitting at the table wearing a loose.
My name is Simon McMahon. My pronouns are him, he, and I'm sitting here at the table wearing a grey jacket.
I got to tell you,
fantastic.
Whenever I get an email from someone, I don't care where they work, whether it's a government department or whether it's someone trying to sell me something, and they've got their pronouns in there, I'll never speak to that person again.
Yeah, particularly, right?
I can't take you seriously.
Particularly if you are a male who's clearly a male, no one's ever questioned that you're a male, and you're putting him, he. I mean, I go, what are you doing about that?
Oh,
why?
Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it just, yeah. As soon as I see it, it just tells me all I need to know.
Yep.
Just a virtue signaling twat.
Yep.
And yeah, I switch off to him.
But Luke Munro, him, he, sitting here wearing a beige jumper.
Yeah, beige, white, cream. Yeah, and colourblind.
But look, mate, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on at the moment.
Yeah,
the world is nuts.
It is.
The thing is, how can we support conservatives to start making an influence? Now, people will go straight to the C-suite. They'll say, run for Parliament.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you're a Conservative out there and you want to make a big difference in terms of starting to get to the change that the reasonable people want to see, right, you can run for Parliament. You could run for local government.
Yep.
You could join a right-leaning political party.
Yep.
In whatever region you sit. Or one of the things we'd like to push here is, like and subscribe to this podcast so we can keep putting the more content we can get out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Will mean that we can get to a broader audience and start pushing these issues, particularly here in South Australia. So if you can support us, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because we want to get this bigger, and we want to make sure that any issues that come up in here, particularly in South Australia, but Australia more broadly, we're ready to fight on. Because what I'm hearing is there's going to be a whole bunch more local governments around South Australia that are looking to cancel Australia Day and Australia Day events.
Yeah.
We've got a state government that seems to be hell-bent on, diluting who we are as a people, whether it might be, we can't use the word Anzac Day in our public holidays, or giving minority groups a bigger voice within the parliamentary system. Yeah, that's going to be a threat to our democracy and the way we think of ourselves as a free society where everyone has an equal say and an equal vote. And then at the federal level, well, we don't even have to mention it because we're seeing what Anthony Albanese does. And if we have a Greens left minority government, that's going to be disastrous for our country. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it with whoever you can on whatever platform you're watching this, and let's make sure we can get Adelaide Conservatives to be a bigger voice for and reasonable-minded people here in South Australia.
And if you've got any issues that we may not have even discussed that you're aware of that might be might be affecting Conservative people in Adelaide, feel free to drop us a line.
Perfect. Luke, as always, thank you.